Welcome back, Retro Gamers, to video 12 in the series Destiny of an Emperor playthrough. You may remember in the last video that we were able to pacify the province of Shu, and we invited Liu Bei to the castle at Chengdu, capital of Shu, and he told us that the swordsmith had already been coming by looking for us. So we have a trip to the swordsmith to take care of, and we stopped the video at that point. Now, I did a little bit of housekeeping in the interim. There were a couple of weapons upgrades to be done there at Chengdu Castle. There were no power pills, but I did replenish our Elixir Cs. And then I proceeded to take the trip back to the swordsmith. There wasn't a lot going on there as far as commentary or insights, other than we stepped up to another level, and we found that there were no swords at the swordsmith. He had made 5 beautiful swords, he had named them, and then a group of yellow scarves had come by and stolen them from him. And we'll be finding those swords scattered throughout the countryside over the next part of our quest. So before we start into our next quest, we've got a little bit of drama to undertake, and it starts with Liu Bei contemplating the vast empire that he has conquered at this time and what he's going to do about it. So, the Emperor and others are controlling Wu and Wei, and it's time for him to send Guan Yu and Zhang Fei to help govern part of his provinces. He's sending them both back to Jingzhou. Guan Yu will administer Changsha Castle. Zhang Fei will administer Guiyang Castle. And that's the only way to ensure peace in Jingzhou. So, of course, we can't argue with Liu Bei, and both of those generals take off immediately. Then, unfortunately, bad news comes into the castle. Cao Cao of Wei took ill and died, so the emperor is without his protection, and Sun Ce of Wu was assassinated. 2 peaceful rulers dead at the same time. Unrest will come, and sure enough, Wu's army is attacking. Guan Yu and Zhang Fei are barely holding their own. They need rescue. So we have our quest number 6. We're sent to Jingzhou at once, and since we have already taken care of all the housekeeping there, we are able to take the Gull Wing and head to Jingzhou. Now, the castle of Changsha is the only castle in Jingzhou. So Changsha was assigned to Guan Yu, so he should be here in the palace. Let's go talk to him. Keeping in mind that we no longer have Guan Yu nor Zhang Fei in our army, we're a little bit short-staffed right now. But we were able, apparently, to alleviate the siege in Changsha, and Guan Yu wants his son to take his place in our battle group. And then go talk to Zhang Fei, because he's got some intelligence as to what's going on in the realm. So here it is, Guan Yu wants to replace his father, and of course we say yes. Now, if you recall, Guan Yu was the trailer at this particular time, and Guan Jing has inherited his knapsack of the extra elixirs that we have. Now you might be tempted to grab a few of our past generals to fill out our battle group, but seeing that we got Guan Yu's son in Changsha, let's see what we might get in Guiyang. Of course, we're going to have to fight our way through down there. And Chen Ying doesn't rise to the level of our recruiting standards, particularly now that we have significantly greater soldier power in our ranks. So let's talk to Zhang Fei. So we were able to alleviate the siege of Guiyang as well as Changsha. And Zhang Fei wants his son to join us. And at the same time, that intelligence that Guan Yu spoke about, Sun Quan of Wu managed to get the imperial seal and calls himself the emperor. But in addition to that, Cao Pi, eldest son of Cao Cao, has usurped the throne and calls himself the emperor too. He's deposed the old emperor. Who knows what happened to that guy? And Liu Bei wants us back at Chengdu Castle as soon as we can manage it. So let's talk to Zhang Fei's son, Zhang Bao. And he wants to join the fighting. And of course, we want him with us. And let's see what Zhang Bao brings to the table. Zhang Fei's knapsack. But we have to equip him with the weapons in Zhang Fei's knapsack. So of course we'll do that. And let's take a look at his soldier strength. Looks like he's going to take exactly the same place that his father had as number 5 in the fighting battle group. So let's make that formation change. And now we have a little bit of work to do. But before we do that, I've already made a mistake, I believe. Remember all that time I spent preaching about getting yourself a gull wing to replace the one that you used? Well, here we are. We forgot to replace it at Changsha, and there are no gull wings in Guiyang. So, a little bit embarrassing, but that's okay because right now we've got to take care of the usurpers, or at least some of the rebellious warlords in Wuling and Lingling. And Han Zhuan does not rise to the level of our recruiting standards, so we move on. Liu Yang, another malcontent, but nothing to cause us problems. We've got a very valuable fighting group now with the addition of Zhang Bao, who, by the way, along with Guan Jing, is a tiger, and will begin to increase his soldier power as we move up in the levels. So he and The other guy will literally take the place of their fathers for the rest of the game. So not only do we have rebels at the castles, no great surprise, we've got rebels all over the land that we've got to fight through. None of them are really worth their salt. The good news is they didn't even defend the barricades. Ling Tong and Wu Fan, and even though they have a boatload of soldiers, we're going to try the all out and see if we can just push through them. And they do prove to be a little bit tougher than we have seen at this point. So that's maybe a learning point for us. Don't take anything for granted. The final victory will be Wu's, so Ling Tong seems to be a true believer in the rebellion. Meanwhile, we took his castle away from him, and let's just refresh ourselves. And, just in case you're wondering, there are no gull wings here in Lingling either. But that's okay, because as you know, we've got one more castle to take care of, and that's back at the northern part of Jingzhou, Wuling Castle. So note to self, there are no gull wings in Jingzhou except at Changsha. So as we go through Changsha on our way to Wuling, on our way to Wuling, we've got to remember to stop and get ourselves a gull wing. There it is. So imagine our embarrassment if we would have gone all the way to Wuling Castle and realized there was no gull wing there. And now we've got another problem, and that's this guy clogging the bridge that gets us out of town. And when you're close to the water, you can expect pirates. And we've got a fight for Wuling Castle as well, Fan Zhang and Qin Wu. Let's go ahead and at least do a reconnoiter on these guys, because look at that big bite that Fan Zhang took out of Zhang Ren. $185.90. Qin Wu 161.115. So they don't seem all that big, except for they've got a boatload of soldiers with them. So let's do an emergency feed for Zhang Ren, because he's in trouble. And then let's gang up on Fan Zhang. And Zhang Ren could actually use a second elixir. And if it's not an emergency, they seem to be targeting Zhang Ren to a certain extent, but let's see if we can get the upper hand here and do a Beiji for the healthier Yan Yan. And let's let Zhang Ren refresh himself. And see if we can turn the tide of this battle that's not exactly going our way at the moment. And there's Zhang Ren, healthy again. And they seem to be targeting Pang Tong now. So, generally speaking, the enemy does random attacks, but every once in a while, and probably increasingly as you see these stronger warlords, you'll see this kind of targeted attack taking place. It almost looks like the Beiji ran out of Zhang Ren. Let's just try a little bit of fire against Qin Wu and see what we do while we gang the rest of the time up on Fan Zhang. Now, in a way, this is kind of a portent of things to come. That fire tactic was very effective. And now we've got Qin Wu a little bit on the ropes. Let's do just one more battle round so we don't get any surprises. And that fire wasn't quite as successful as the last one, but we've got Qin Wu down to a fairly good level. We're in a couple of battle rounds will not make any difference as far as the survivability of our battle group. Wei has an alliance with Wu, so you got a true believer in that last guy that said the final battle would be Wu's, and now you see that Wei and Wu are allied. We've advanced a skill level, so that may change our order of battle, but meanwhile, let's drop in here and just refresh ourselves. Take a look at our order of battle here, and you see that Zhang Bao has moved up to the number 2 position now. And Guanjing is still down below Ma Dai as far as soldier count is concerned, so we'll leave him where he is for the moment. But let's make that change for Zhang Bao. And since we have resettled Jingzhou province, let's head back to Zhangfei at Chengdu Castle and see what he has to say now. Before we do that, though, why don't we stop into the merchant and replace our gull wing? And let's put in the back of our mind that we did use a couple of elixirs in that last battle. Sun Se of Wu and Cao Pi of Wei both claimed the title of emperor. And they've expelled the emperor. I guess they didn't kill him, but that means the collapse of the Han Dynasty. But our battle group is kind of arguing with Liu Bei a little bit, bringing to him the idea that these guys are usurpers, and Liu Bei has more right to the title of emperor than either of the others. Liu Bei is not ambitious, and he doesn't want to be a usurper, and etc. And again, this is probably one of the battle group anyway is putting out the fact that unlike these other two rebellious entities, Liu Bei has the right to rule, and if we don't take that right and fight for it, the rebels will have won and all of this effort will have been in vain. And he finally talks Liu Bei into declaring himself the emperor. And apparently there are civil authorities around to hear him say that. So Liu Bei is now the emperor of China. Of course, he's going to have to fight for it. So we are going to fight Wu and Wei. Now, he doesn't give us particularly a direction of where we're going to do that, but I just happen to know where this battle is going to take place, the beginning of it anyway. So I'm going to take my gull wing and use it and head back to Changsha and replace the gull wing. All right, remember we noted that we had used a couple of Elixir Cs, and between you and me, this forms a dichotomy in the game, or let's just say a step up in level, and in particular, the level of opposition that we will experience in the warlords that we are going to be fighting in Wu and Wei. And you might remember when we first came into Jingzhou province that we were fighting warlords with a couple of thousand more soldiers than we had. And you might want to double that or triple that in the expectation of what we are going to encounter in Wu and Wei. So what we want to do is increase our power pill count. And the only way to do that right now is to sell off some of our Elixirs C. And let me just go through the generals. We're going to leave Peng Tong with 2 power pills and 2 elixirs. So let's just pass that one to Peng Tong. And he's got all that he needs. Zhang Bao, we want him to have at least 4 power pills. And so we're going to move his 2 of his elixirs back to Guanjing. And the same way with Zhang Ren. We want him to have 4 power pills, so we're going to pass one of his C elixirs to Guanjing. But Guanjing can't carry anymore. So from this point on, we're going to have to be selling our elixir Cs. So let's talk to this guy. Zhang Ren has got 1 too many elixir Cs for the power pills he's going to be taking. So we'll take that 150 gold coins and take a look at Yan Yan, and he's going to be selling 2 of his elixirs also. And finally, Ma Dai. Now, Ma Dai, we are only going to sell 1 of his elixirs because in addition to Peng Tong, we've got to have somebody else in the fight that has at least 1 extra elixir. And in the place of those, we are going to purchase power pills. Peng Tong already has the 2 that we want him to keep. And I'm just going to, rather than counting, I'm just going to overload power pills to make sure that I don't leave any spaces in the knapsacks. You who are mathematicians and can keep probably better count than I can probably won't need to do this. But it's one of those extra just in cases. So our knapsacks are full, and we are ready to open up quest number 7, I believe it is, which will turn into a very, very long quest. We'll probably break it down into capsules. Actually, 3 different segments of this quest. And from now on, the game gets different. We're going to have to be very, very intelligent about our tactics and the understanding of how they work together, and the tactics also of the enemy, because they are going to be using some stuff that we haven't seen before, and we're going to have to figure out how to defend against it. And we are going to see soldier levels as we have never seen before. So, let's just do a courtesy call on Zhang Fei. Okay, they're defending their own castle, so we've got to go out into fight Wu and Wei. We are completely staffed up, and surprise, surprise, there has been a little change since the last time we were in Guiyang. A bridge has been built from Guiyang into the territories of Wu and Wei. And honestly, at this point, I'm not sure which of those territories we're going into. But be ready for some extra serious battles as we make our way toward the first castle that we're going to have to fight at. And strangely enough, we made it all the way to the first castle without any challenge. Don't expect that to happen very often. And we've got Gan Ning with 6,000 soldiers and Lu Su with 6,300. Fortunately, we still get an intelligence report. Gan Ning has 223 strength, and he's not all that dumb either. Lu Su is the strategian, 218 intelligence. And if you take a look at the list of his tactics, and it wouldn't hurt you if you've got a super duper gaming aid to get in there and kind of understand what these tactics are, because Yin Jian will cause one of our generals to stop fighting. Ji Mian will repulse every weapons attack that we make. And Yi Jin, I can't even remember. That may be a restorative, but none of those tactics are our friends. So we've got just the tactics that we've already started with. So let's see if we can use them effectively against these very large, strong armies. The other thing is, well, we'll get to it as we see it. So let's go ahead and do Beiji. But we're just going to do a battle on this one because I suspect that Lu Su is going to throw us a curveball here. And actually, even though the rest of our generals aren't exactly tacticians, they are fairly smart. So let's keep loading up on the Beijis. And just let each of them treat themselves for this first battle round and see if we can absorb the heavy hits that we're going to get. Gan Ning takes a bite out of Yan Yan. And sure enough, Lu Su hits us with the Ji Mian tactic. Which means that none of our weapons attacks will be effective. Fortunately, that Ji Mian just wore off at the end of the battle round. So that gives us the opportunity to try a Ji Mian of our own and try some power pills against Lu Su. Hopefully we'll be able to strike him before he does another Ji Mian against us. Because if he does Ji Mian, we will lose that power pill. It'll be wasted. So anything that we can strike before he pulls another Ji Mian will be money in our pocket. And fortunately, we were very, very lucky and took him off the board before he could even react. And now, Gan Ning and the rebel forces strikes will not be effective until our Ji Mian wears off. And it might last multiple battle rounds or it might just match one. But in the meantime, let's do a fire attack against Gan Ning and some more power pills. You saw Gan Ning's attack bounced off because of the Ji Mian, and we were able to take him off the board before he could react. Our Da Ray spilled over to the rebel force, but it was of no effect. So now we can just go all out against the rebels. And believe me, that was better luck than we should have expected. And we're able to enter the first of the castles, Jian'an. And this is going to be a very interesting place for us. Let's sleep it off at the inn, replenish ourselves. And unfortunately, there are no power pills in this castle. But there is an interesting proposition for us here. Clog the canal. What canal are we talking about? I'll show you in a minute. Okay, we've got to find some saltpeter and the branch of a tree or some wood from a tree that's over 1,000 years old. And if you've got a super duper gaming aid, you'll know that a couple of these ingredients, or at least one of these ingredients, is not too far away. Let's talk to the gentleman in this house. Just happens to have 1,000-year-old tree in his backyard, and he has something else too. So before I go to his backyard, I've got to realize, well, we do have some space in our knapsacks because we used some of the power pills. So let's take advantage of that space. And first we're going to check this side of the tree. And found a scimitar, which is the next level of weaponry. So we are going to pass that scimitar. Oh, yeah, we didn't use any of Pang Tong's power pills. Important note. So we look at Zhang Bao, and sure enough, he's got the scimitar, and we're going to equip him with it. We would normally pass the battle axe to our acting tactician, but his knapsack is full. So let's check on the other side of the tree. And found the dead wood from the 1,000-year-old tree. So that's one ingredient that we have to make the gunpowder that we need to get over the canal. What canal is he talking about? I'll just show it to you here on the risk of being attacked when we get there, but back out of the inn. And there is the canal. It's blocking our way into the rest of the province that we need to attack. So in order to continue our quest, we're going to have to find some saltpeter. And I just happen to know where some of it is. But before I head that direction, I'm going to take Pang Tong's power pills and pass them down to the fighting generals. Unfortunately, Zhang Bao and Zhang Ren both got their knapsacks filled up. So let's pass the deadwood down to Ma Dai. And let's pass the extra weapon to Ma Dai. And then pass the extra power pills to Zhang Bao. Little tip that will help you just in case we run into more trouble than we can handle. On our way to Jian'an Cave, named after the castle that we just conquered. And here we go with Lu Su. Let's see what he's got to bring against us. He is a tactician, and he's got that Yin Jian Ji Mian thing going on. But we are going to just do an all-out and see how far we can get. Note to self, it may not be very far before we have to bring out the big guns. And you can see by the diminishing soldier count that we were again lucky against Lu Su. And what should we do with him? Let's try to convert him. He might come over to our side for 10,000 gold coins. That's less than 10% of what we have. Let's bring him on. Unfortunately, we've got a trailer. So in order to put Lu Su in our battle group, we're going to have to get back to a headquarters. Meanwhile, let's see if we can make it through Jian'an Cave, find the saltpeter before we get blown out of the water by another one of these huge generals. Fortunately, this is just kind of a little force against us. So we'll take them with an all-out. Let's just take a quick look at Zhang Bao because it looks like he might need an elixir as a refresh. Yes. And our other generals are in very good shape at the moment. So let's pursue the trail to the saltpeter. All right, another large group. Zhu Ji is nothing but strong. Zhu Zhang is not very good as a tactician. So let's see if we can do some all-out here with a little bit of success. And it looks like we're not making much headway against these guys, and they are kind of blowing away our boat. So let's target that not so great tactician, and let's also refresh Zhang Ren with one of his Cs. Ooh, he's only got one C left. We must have used one of his a little bit earlier on. And let's see if we can take out Zhu Zhang with some direct attacks. And another heavy attack against Zhang Ren. And let's use one of Ma Dai's elixirs to replenish Zhang Ren and hope that they don't both target Zhang Ren. Good, we've got him closer to healthy. And I suspect that when we did the all-out, Zhu Zhang probably did a Jimian against us, or some other tactic which prevented our weapons attacks. But it looks like we are going to be successful on this one. Let's just focus on Zhu Zhang and take him out before he can do any other tactics, like a restorative, for example. Good. And now, against Zhu Ji, we should be pretty successful. And you notice that his casualty count was diminished there from over 1,000 down to 700. And we've advanced to skill level. That's a very good thing. We need all the strength we can get. And we've got the Jin Jian tactic now, which is a much more significant restorer, if I recall correctly. But we've got a lot of restoring to do as far as elixirs are concerned now. It looks like everybody but Yan Yan needs some elixirs. So let's feed them into the mix, and then we've got to remember to replace the elixirs that we used out of the knapsacks of the fighting generals. And I'm pretty sure that we used both elixirs out of Pang Tong's knapsack. And I believe it was Zhang Ren and Ma Dai that also were missing elixirs. So I believe we've got full knapsacks now for the fighting generals again. And we are still on the trail. Oops, we kind of overshot the mark there. And here is Zhu Ji Jin. Remember, our acting tactician is Zhu Ji Liang. So Zhu Ji Jin is more than likely Zhu Ji Liang's brother. And so you can expect that he's going to be a great tactician. And sure enough, he's got the Frankenstein headdress. Not as smart as his brother, but still very smart. And he's got all those new tactics that we don't like. So let's see if we can do an all-out against him and prosper more than he can all-out against us. But you can see we're taking hits, and he's not. So obviously he's using that Ji Mian stuff against us. And hopefully he'll run out somewhere down the pike here, and we can finish him off. Oh, look at that. He has suddenly taken us down to the nub. He must have used some of his other very ugly tactics. So let's restore our generals and directly target. And he's done something to Zhang Ren to keep him from attacking. And he's done something, he made Zhang Ren attack his own group. And now he has taken Zhang Ren out of the fight, which is kind of good news, bad news if he was attacking us. And so now we've restored ourselves. And taken a bite out of Zhu Ji Jin. Now, we don't have too many rebel forces left, but in light of his success so far, I think we want to target him directly. And again, we're keeping our tactics and our remaining power pills in our hip pocket, because Zhu Ji Jin is not the only ugly beastie that's out there in the woods that'll be fighting against us in the next little while. And right now, our best recipe for success is to stay on our toes, use every resource that we have, and keep climbing the levels. So right now, we've got a thing to do. This may be the first time in a long time that we have lost one of our generals in battle. Zhang Ren has been routed, and it's like the Princess Bride. He's not dead, he's just almost dead. And what we're going to do is take the resurrect from Zhu Ji Liang and use it on Zhang Ren. The resurrect brings him back to life and gives him 400 soldiers. That was a lot of soldiers in the beginning of the game, but it's obviously nothing now. So it's going to cost us a couple of sea elixirs just to bring Zhang Ren back to fighting trim. So you can see how quickly our store of Elixir Seas is being diminished. And now let's see what our staffing levels look like. And Zhang Ren is 800 low, so we'll hang on just right now. Remember, we used a restorative tactic to bring our people back up to speed. So we are down a few tactical points, not too many. And we have some staffing changes to make here in the order of battle. You'll notice that Guanjing is now a greater force than any of our erstwhile addition, Zhongren, Yan Yan, Ma Dai. So we're going to take Ma Dai's equipment and pass it immediately to Guanjing and bring Guanjing into the battle group. Now, if I had been thinking very sharply, what I would have done is just take Zhang Ren out of the battle group rather than resurrect him and use a bunch of C's on him. Just make him the trailer. And when you're almost dead, there's not a lot you can do, but you can carry stuff. In any case, we didn't do that, so we'll just deal with what we've got. It costs us a couple of elixirs, but at this point, that might not be a terrible thing. And remember that even if we run into other terrible problems, we've got a gull wing, and we can use it. Ma Dai had one power pill left, so let's pass that to Guanjing. And because Guanjing is going to go up over those other two generals, let's pass, well, Zhang Ren only has 2 power pills. How many does Yan Yan have? 2. And so let's pass Yan Yan's power pills to Guanjing. Now there is some benefit to having those power pills distributed throughout the generals. That way, if one general gets killed, you don't lose all your power pills. But in this particular situation, the advantage to concentrating your power pills is that you only have to use your Beiji tactic on the generals that have those power pills. So there's a trade-off to be done. And again, Guanjing moves up just under Zhang Bao. And Ma Dai goes back to the trail position. And let's get down to our mini quest for the saltpeter. Now, unlike all of the other caves that we've been in, this one only has that single treasure chest, the saltpeter. But now that we have successfully gotten it, I'll let you in on a little secret. We're not heading back to Jianan Castle right away. We're going to head back to the province of Jingzhou, where we can pick up some additional power pills. And Because of that, anytime that we get into big trouble, we can just break out our gull wing and use it. We want to fight our way back if we can, but as we get lower on resources, we may change our mind. Zhang Hong is a tactician, and he's got the ugly stuff that we have seen in the past. And believe me, Yinjian, Jimian, Yijin, they are already pretty powerful, but there are worse that we will see. And of course, Da Rei, the fire tactic we're already familiar with. Hong Shui is a water tactic that's very powerful, but we ain't near the water right now, so we don't have to worry about that. Let's see what we can achieve with an all-out. And we may be in the same situation that we were in with Zhu Jijin, and he's going to put the spell on us, and sure enough, it looks like he might have done Ji Mian against us. And, well, we're in good shape now. I was worried about Zhang Ren, but I think he's going to survive as we do the all-out against Zhang Hong and take him off the board. And let's take that Elixir C from Zhu Ji Liang and use it on rats. I forgot whether it was Yan Yan. No, it was Zhang Ren. And now here we are at the point where we don't have any extra elixirs. All we have are the elixirs in the knapsacks. So in the fighting generals' knapsacks. And remember, we took out a lot of those elixirs to replace them with power pills. So we're coming close, and we need to just go ahead and give Zhang Ren another Elixir C. The last one that's extra. And this is the point where we begin to consider that discretion is the better part of valor. And we might be on the trail of using our gull wing here pretty quickly. Let's see if we can at least get out of the mountain and head for home. And we've got Zhang Hong. I think we fought him once before. Yep, he's one of those tacticians. So let's see what we can do with an all-out. Got my finger on the X key to stop it if we need to. Getting down to the wire. And we're starting to make a headway against him. And we defeated him. And this is the point where I'm going to call it good and take that gull wing. Now we're just down the street from home base, but between here and there could be all kinds of ugly beasties, so let's use it and make our way back to Changsha. And we need to replace our Resurrect, and we need to replace our gull wing. And at this point I am thinking, because in Jianan we didn't stop in the merchant except to sell one of our weapons. And if we would have asked to buy something, we would have seen that there are Elixir Ds in Jianan Market. And so I'm going to buy a few Elixir Cs to tide us over, because we've still got to traverse that very dangerous piece of territory. And now let's fill up with power pills. And I'm getting a little suspicious of myself right now, doing a sanity check. Oh. I thought we had lots of room in our power packs, and now I remember that we've got a couple of things to sell. How did we end up filling up Pangtong with Elixir Cs? And I must have been talking when I should have been thinking. Okay. Zhang Bao has everything that he needs. Guanjing has 3 power pills, and so we're going to pass one of those Elixir Cs to Ma Dai. And we've got the saltpeter here that we need to carry with us back to Jianan. Sorry. Trying to figure out what the heck I've been doing. Zhang Bao already sold the extra weapon, I guess. Okay, so now let's fill up with power pills. All right, stick with me here just a little bit longer, because we also have a personnel change to make. Remember that we recruited one of those huge generals that we were fighting. And let's just take a look at his profile to see what he brings to the table. Oh, great. He is just middling strong, but he's got high intelligence. Now, something I completely missed when we were fighting him, and it wouldn't have done us any good anyway, but if you take a look down there at that last tactic in his tactic box, An Shah is an assassination tactic, and if it's successful, you completely remove a general from the battle, a general and his army. An Shah decapitates the general and renders his army useless. So it's like killing him, routing him, whatever. But it's a single straight attack. Bap, and he's gone. And whenever you see a general that has that, you want to try to recruit them onto your side, even if he's not as big or as strong as some of the other generals you already have, because that tactic doesn't always work, but when it does, it's very effective and very damaging to our side of the equation. So we're glad to have Lu Su with us, and we are going to replace one of our generals with Lu Su. More than likely, that's going to be Yan Yan, because he is down at the bottom of our general pile right now. So, here we go. We delete Yan Yan, and we bring on Lu Su. And Lu Su takes the head of our battle group. Now the other thing that we're going to do is take out Ma Dai and replace him with one of our tigers, just in case. We've got a great tiger. We probably already do, now that I think of it. Let's see who we've got in here from our tigers. There's Zhao. Oh, I'm sorry, Zhang Jun. Oh, he's not the one we're looking for. There's Hua Zhang. What I'm looking for is Wanzhong. Man, my brain is just about gone. We're just about to stop this video just because I need help. So, let's try again. Stats. We've got Ma Chao. We've got Wang Zhang, and we've got Zhao Yun. So let's take a look at Wang Zhang. He's been pretty big at this point. He's only got 2,900. But he may be bigger than the others still. Zhao Yun right now only has 2,800. And Ma Chao has 2,800. So let's take Wang Zhang in place of Ma Dai. Okay, so now we've got Wang Zhang in there as our trailer, and we've got Lu Su up there in front. The only question is, do we put Lu Su or Pang Tong in as the fighting tactician? And let's see. I don't think it will make any difference, but let's see. Pang Tong is 240. Lu Su is 218. So we leave Pang Tong as the fighting tactician, and we use Lu Su as the backup tactician in the battle group. And that, folks, should take care of us for this particular video. And what we need to do now is head over to Guiyang, to the recorder there, and save our game. And we'll call it a night. And please like, subscribe, comment, complain, whatever you want to do, all that free stuff on my channel, Emperor Tricks. And we'll restore ourselves before we do anything else. and we'll be ready to head back into the provinces of Wu and Wei. Thank you very much for watching, and happy gaming.